In the wake of its continued trash balloon campaign against the South, North Korea launched a ballistic missile this morning, but the test failed, with it exploding and falling into the sea. Mourners gathered at a memorial altar to offer condolences to the victims of the recent deadly fire at a local battery factory. Meanwhile, an investigation into the cause of the fire has picked up pace. The number of newborns increased in April for the first time in 19 months on the back of the base effect and more marriages. It's June 26, 2024. This is Newscenter.
Good evening. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon. We start with the failed ballistic missile launched by North Korea early this morning. And just last night, the regime sent more trash-carrying balloons into the south. Our defense correspondent Choi Min-jung reports.
North Korea on Wednesday morning launched a ballistic missile that appears to have failed. According to South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, the regime fired a ballistic missile toward the East Sea at around 5:30 a.m. from the Pyongyang area. A military official explained that the North appears to have attempted to test launch a solid-fuel hypersonic missile. However, the military said the launch apparently failed, as the missile reportedly exploded mid-air after traveling some 250 kilometers, likely due to engine problems. This is the regime's first ballistic missile launch in almost a month, and experts say it could be a response to the arrival of the U.S. aircraft carrier USS Theodore Roosevelt in South Korea. But it could also be an effort by the regime to flaunt military achievement ahead of a key party meeting this month.
North Korea perhaps tried to highlight the success of the reconnaissance satellite, but that failed. So I believe they are continuing to test solid-fuel engines to achieve positive results with regard to solid-fuel medium to long-range ballistic missiles.
The provocation also comes after North Korea sent trash-carrying balloons for the second straight night on Tuesday, which was the sixth time since May 28th. As of Wednesday morning, the regime sent around 250 balloons, of which 100 landed in South Korea, mostly in Seoul and North Gyeonggi-do province. The military has been warning that it is ready to air loudspeaker broadcasts immediately against the North, depending on the regime's actions. Pyongyang is presumed to have launched around 2,000 balloons so far. The latest balloon delivery meant delays of up to 3 hours for dozens of domestic and international flights at Incheon International Airport early Wednesday to prevent the risk of an accident. In three-way phone talks on Wednesday, top nuclear envoys of South Korea, the U.S., and Japan strongly condemned the launch and agreed to keep a close eye on the possibility of additional provocations by North Korea following its recent summit with Russia. South Korea's envoy also vowed to ensure the public's safety from the trash-carrying balloons. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
People are paying their condolences to the victims of the recent fire at a local battery factory. Meanwhile, the police are investigating factory officials over the deadly blaze. Yoon has the latest.
A memorial altar has been set up for the 23 victims of Monday's lithium battery factory fire. Relatives of the victims and members of the public have been paying their respects at the temporary memorial at Hwaseong City Hall in Gyeonggi-do province. While most of the victims are foreign workers, only the identities of 3 Korean nationals have been confirmed. It has been reported that the remaining 20 bodies are too damaged for fingerprint identification. The National Forensic Service is currently conducting autopsies to confirm the identities of the remaining victims. 8 people were also injured in the fire, which started when batteries in the factory exploded. Meanwhile, the police and the Ministry of Employment and Labor initiated on Wednesday the seizure and search of the Aricell factory and other facilities. They aim to thoroughly investigate the cause of the fire and the factors contributing to the significant loss of life. The South Korean government has ordered the Aricell lithium battery factory to stop all operations as of Wednesday morning and has charged 3 Aricell factory officials with violations of industrial laws. The police are also investigating 5 factory officials, including CEO Park Sung-kwan, on charges of involuntary manslaughter due to occupational negligence. Hwaseong City has established a support center with participation from 12 organizations, including relevant ministries and the Chinese embassy in Korea. The support provided will include assistance with funerals and medical care for those injured. Yoon, Arirang News.
The highest number of suicides among OECD members could be just one of the indicators that shows South Koreans are not happy, with mental health being often linked to the overall happiness of citizens. President Yoon is now taking the matter into his own hands with efforts to better accommodate people suffering from mental illnesses. Kim Do-yeon reports.
A series of policies dedicated to the mental health of citizens was announced on Wednesday after President Yoon Suk-yeol became the first South Korean leader to chair a meeting specifically dedicated to the mental well-being of the people. Hosting the first meeting of a committee he created last year, Yoon vowed a complete shift in the government's approach to mental health.
이제 국민의 이 마음을, 정신 건강을 돌보는 문제가 매우 중요한 국정 과제가 됐습니다. 우리가 아무리 세계 10위권 경제 강국, 글로벌 문화 강국으로 도약했다고 해도 국민이 한 사람 한 사람의 국민이 행복하다고 생각하지 않으면 아무 소용이 없는 것입니다.
The committee is tasked with focusing on 3 areas: prevention, treatment, and recovery. Regarding prevention, the government is set to start a project that will provide mental counseling to 1 million people by 2027, while providing free mental health checkups every 2 years for those in their 20s and 30s instead of once every 10 years. To promote rapid treatment, it will expand the current mental health emergency response teams nationwide. For recovery, the government will create rehabilitation centers focused on mental illnesses.
The detailed mental health policy plans announced during today's meeting are a roadmap created through surveys of patients and their families and input from medical, psychiatry, counseling, and welfare experts. No other government has ever done this before.
In the meantime, President Yoon said changing the public's perception of mental health is even more important than the policies themselves.
그렇지만 더 중요한 것은 정신 건강을 바라보는 우리 사회의 시선을 바꾸는 것입니다. 정신질환은 일반 질환과 마찬가지로 치료할 수 있고 치료하면 낫는다, 위험하지 않다는 인식이 우리 사회에 뿌리내리도록 해야 됩니다.
An official at the presidential office said the committee will have subcommittees, and one of them will consist of marketing and PR experts to create campaigns on breaking down the barriers of public perception toward mental health. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Elsewhere, there has been another prisoner swap between Ukraine and Russia, involving 90 people on both sides. Lee Seung-jae has more.
With the United Arab Emirates working as the intermediary, Russia and Ukraine on Tuesday took part in a prisoner exchange involving 90 prisoners of war each. The swap is one of several periodic prisoner swaps made during the more than 2 years of war, with the latest exchange taking place in May when each country handed over 75 prisoners of war. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said the latest swap is on the path to bringing all detainees home. Meanwhile, the first shipment of ammunition from a Czech initiative arrived in Ukraine on Tuesday. This comes as the EU member has led an effort to buy ammunition with funding coming from NATO allies to help Ukraine in its war with Russia. Officials in Prague said in May that the first 50,000 to 100,000 artillery shells would arrive in Ukraine in June. The Czech government said that over $1.8 billion in payments or firm commitments from 15 donor countries had been made, which would allow for 500,000 artillery rounds for Ukraine by the end of the year. Of the countries that pledged to take part in the Czech-led initiative, only 5 had delivered the promised payments by the end of May. The European Union and Ukraine also began membership talks on Tuesday, a move Russia has long opposed. The EU accession talks began during an intergovernmental conference in Luxembourg, with President Zelensky on his social media page on X saying that his people are realizing their European dream, adding that Ukraine is returning to Europe. However, Tuesday's talks will most likely be just a small step on a long road, as Turkey has been in accession talks for almost 2 decades without a membership. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
The number of newborns increased in April for the first time in well over a year, but a higher mortality rate in the same month kept the country's population down. Park Go-nu has the country's latest demographic portrait.
South Korea's population saw another natural decline in April. Though data from Statistics Korea on Wednesday showed that April's birth figures saw an on-year increase for the first time since September 2022, the population shrank due to an increase in the number of deaths. The number of births in April exceeded 19,000, which was an on-year increase of 2.8% due to the base effect, while a rise in the number of marriages from August 2022 until the first half of last year may have also been a factor. There were over 28,600 deaths the same month, up 4% compared to the year before, leading to a natural population decline of nearly 10,000. A Statistics Korea official pointed to the number of marriages in April as another area of focus. The figure soared by 24.6% compared to the year before, with just over 18,000 marriages registered in April. That's the highest increase for any April since related data was first compiled in 1981. The official said an extra workday in April for marriages to be registered compared to last year, an increase in marriage support subsidies, as well as the base effect, helped boost figures. Divorce figures were also up by around 6% on year, exceeding 7,700. Park Go-nu, Arirang News.
The country will launch low-interest loans next month for the semiconductor industry and extend tax benefits for firms developing strategic technologies. The Finance Ministry announced on Wednesday that it will provide low-interest loans from a fund of 17 trillion won, or some $12 billion next month to semiconductor manufacturers. The chip firms will receive funding for the construction of new facilities, as well as benefiting from preferential policies for research and development projects. The government will also extend a tax credit policy over 3 years for companies developing national strategic technologies that can be used in the semiconductor and secondary batteries sectors. On the cultural front, South Korea and Canada have officially launched their Year of Cultural Exchanges program. Seoul's Culture Minister Yoon and the Minister of Canadian Heritage, Pascal Saint-Onge, signed a memorandum of understanding at Canada's National Arts Centre in Ottawa on Tuesday local time, aiming to expand exchanges in the arts, cultural heritage, and sports. Following the signing, both ministers attended an opening ceremony featuring a collaborative performance by young musicians from Korea and Canada. The decision to designate 2024 to 2025 as a year of cultural exchanges was made during a summit between the leaders of the two countries in 2022. Over in Cebu, Yoon Tourism initiated a Gastronomy Tourism Forum for the Asia-Pacific region. The talks centered on how this emerging trend can help boost local economies and at the same time protect cultural heritages. It's the topic that South Korea also takes a great interest in. Our Lee Soo-jin reports from the city.
There's a growing trend in tourism where it's less about what you see and more about what's on the menu. To bring experts from all of the world together to discuss this, the first Yoon Tourism Regional Forum on Gastronomy Tourism for Asia and the Pacific kicked off on Wednesday in Cebu.
Everything is tourism, and that's why it's very important day to day. Big part of economy in tourism, it depends on agriculture and gastronomy tourism.
Gastronomy tourism, or culinary tourism, is a type of travel where the main focus is experiencing a destination's local food and drink. And its market is projected to grow in value from $1.1 trillion in 2023 to a whopping $6.2 trillion in 2033. In light of this, the forum highlighted the wide-reaching economic impact gastronomy tourism has on a country, which includes diversifying income sources for local producers and creating jobs. This greater demand for local cuisine is also a way for a country to preserve its cultural heritage. And a large part of this market is expected to be based in the Asia-Pacific region, which is also why Yoon Tourism decided to hold a regional forum here in the Philippines.
Well, I think there is a very strong point on street food. I think when you think about Asia, it's a huge diversity. And also I think there is already a strong brand because a lot of the cuisines are very well known.
Tourism officials from various areas of the Asia-Pacific region, such as South Korea, Japan, and Hong Kong, were also in attendance to share their own experiences and learn about other countries' practices.
I personally believe that South Korea's gastronomy tourism has a huge impact on the world's gastronomy tourism. Jeju especially is receiving a lot of attention for its seafood and agricultural products from its UNESCO-approved fields.
He added that moving forward, based on what was discussed in this forum, the Jeju Tourism Organization also plans to raise awareness of Jeju's local cuisine in a way that is both inclusive and diverse.
With the forum successfully drawing more than 800 people from more than 30 different countries, it's expected to not just build anticipation for the World Forum happening later this year, but also be the first of many to be held for the Asia-Pacific region. 이수진, Arirang News, Cebu.
Duty-free stores may no longer be the preferred venues of shopping for foreign travelers to Korea. As our Kim Bo-kyung reports, many now seek regular shops on streets or high-end department stores.
South Korea has been witnessing a rebound in the number of foreign tourists, recovering to nearly 89% of pre-COVID-19 pandemic levels in the first 3 months of this year. Duty-free shops have traditionally enjoyed the bulk of foreign sales, but that is no longer the case, at least for now.
In the past, large group tour packages might have made a beeline to the city's duty-free shops. But these days, more tourists are choosing regular shops on the street, like this store, to buy the latest must-have items.
CJ Group's health and beauty drugstore Oliviang is one of those must-visit destinations for foreign visitors, having seen a significant 263% year-on-year surge in first quarter sales. Shoppers say it is not just a store, but rather a trendy cultural spot with a wide selection of products.
I think the reason is this place, it's a cultural spot for us as a tourists. When we watch videos about Korea and stuff like that, we always see Oliviang in the city and we want to see it.
And I mainly chose Oliviang because they have a broader selection of products, and I can test some of the products here. And there's some stuff who can help me out if I wonder something. So that has been very helpful here.
The popular dollar shop chain Daiso is another enjoying a boost in sales, with first quarter overseas card sales and transactions increasing by 76% and 61% respectively. Online fashion platform Bushinsa's Myeongdong store too has seen an increase in the number of foreign customers, with the figure climbing to 45% in May from around 30% in March. Foreigners' changed consumer trends can be seen in department stores as well. According to the data, foreign tourists' top choice for shopping was road shops, followed by department stores. Major ones, Lotte, Shinsegae, and Hyundai all saw at least 50 to 230% increases in foreign sales this year from January to May year-on-year.
Many tourists who come to Korea now come after seeing places on social media, so they visit ordinary shops a lot. Duty-free shops are losing customers because they are not actively promoting themselves on social media, nor do they have many products displayed. It is important for customers to actually see products and choose from a wide selection, and that is why small shops are popular.
Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
An ambitious plan aimed at putting in place a standardized classification system for Korea's artifacts is well underway. Our Yoon covers the progress thus far.
In a storage room at the National Museum of Korea, special equipment is used to take images of artifacts. A 3D scanner takes what is called shape data, creating a digital replica of the artifacts with a margin of error between 3 and 5 millimeters. The detailed precision of the scanner even picks up any scratches on the surface. Over the past 4 years, more than 300 artifacts have been digitally replicated, including the pensive Bodhisattva statue, the Kwangeto the Great Stele, and the Celadon incense burner with open work. Imaging the surface is just the beginning of collecting data towards building a digital cultural heritage platform.
There needs to be booklets, brochures, and papers that give information about the artifacts, like where and when they were excavated and other significant information. And all such data needs to be linked. But until now, such information has been published by outside sources, which means each area of preservation, exhibition, education, and management all had different methods of data storage, and there were also incompatibility issues when transferring the data due to the use of internal and external network connections.
Beyond mere data collection, we need a platform that is physically much lighter and a foundation that can preserve quality data so that people can more easily access information on our cultural heritage themselves.
If the data can be standardized and put in the system, there can be many uses for it. Some examples would be the large media wall at the Incheon International Airport that requires high-quality video data, as well as the metaverse that requires both light and fast operation.
In order to make data that is accessible to all, we need both high-quality data as well as simple data that can be used in gaming or VR.
The research team says that the creation of a standardized classification system is 80% complete, but some 2 million artifacts are registered, and that is just in the e-museum. Once the system is complete, they are expecting it to take another 3 years to finish building the database. 이은진, Arirang News.
The summer heat of around 30 degrees continues nationwide during the day. Unlike the clear inland areas, the rainy season started today on Jeju Island. Late at night, the rain will spread to the south coast of Jeollanam-do province, and tomorrow the rainy season will start in other southern regions. Until Friday, there will be up to 150 millimeters of rain on Jeju Island and a lot of rain on the south coast too. Jeju Island and the southern coast could receive 20 to 30 millimeters of heavy rain per hour tomorrow. Tomorrow morning, Seoul, Busan, and Jeju will start off at 21 degrees Celsius. It will go up to 32 degrees in Seoul, Chuncheon, and Daejeon, and it'll be cooler in Daegu and Gyeongju at 28 degrees. Clear and hot weather will continue in Seoul until Friday before the rains arrive for the weekend. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session coming up.